Hey everybody, Alex here for Nerdy Inc. coming at you with another episode of our favorite frontier, the only Star Trek podcast that's hosted by me and Nick. Hi Nick!
Hey Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Despite the fact that the internet says it's our random weekly Star Trek podcast, it's actually been a month since we've recorded because our lives have been busy. At least mine has.
Yes, I've just been patiently waiting to watch the next episode for about a month. Just waiting to talk about this episode as well.
And wasn't it just a giant letdown?
Absolutely. I wish every episode was like last week's episode, which is the best episode of any Star Trek I've seen ever.
But now we're talking about episode 9, The Battle.
Captain's log, stardate 41723.9. In response to a Starfleet order, we are in the Zendi Sabu star system, having rendezvoused with a Ferengi vessel which has requested a meeting. Although we arrived here and made appropriate signals to the Ferengi 3 days ago, they have so far responded only with the message, "Stand by, Enterprise."
The Battle is an episode in which a shocking amount of things don't actually happen. Basically, Picard and the Enterprise meet up with a Ferengi spaceship in the middle of space. Picard has a headache. That's a big plot point. They say, hey, we found your old ship. You can have it. We spend about a half hour just watching Picard mope around with a headache and be sad and sick. And then eventually there's a giant battle at the end where Picard is full of the wrong memories and he's going to attack the Enterprise. But they discover that he's being mind-controlled, and they convince him to smash the mind controller, and so they don't actually destroy the Stargazer. And that's the whole episode.
Well, speaking of headaches, just right off the bat, I'm surprised how Dr. Crusher reacts to Picard having a headache.
Why is that?
She acts like headache. She's never had to diagnose a headache in her life. Last time I checked, she's a fucking doctor.
Well, I'm going to stick up for the show in this instance and say that's part of... It was meant as half a joke, but half not, in that the whole conceit is that the headaches, much like the common cold and, chicken pox or whatever, they are able to cure it with such ease and precision that the idea of a headache that you can't diagnose and can't fix, it's throwing her off, because she said a normal headache, we should be able to fix that. Why are you having a headache? I can't tell what's wrong. So it's more of her, it's basically a way of the show to say, look how good medicine is, that a headache is almost foreign to a doctor because they're so good at curing them.
Of course. I'll allow it.
Excellent. So, moving on. Yes, Picard has a headache in this episode, and we discover that it's because, look who's back, it's the Ferengi. The Ferengi show up again. Damon Bach is controller of the ship. The Daemon, he's not the Nightmon, champion of Ferenginar. I'm going to stop right there because I can't think of any more puns to make that Star Trek.
And it's slightly embarrassing. Moving on. The Ferengi own a headache machine that they use against Picard to give him headaches, which is why Dr. Crusher could not diagnose it. I think it's funny that this is how they go about it. They just give him these crazy headaches to the point where he's delusional and doesn't understand that he is controlling the Stargazer, or whatever the hell the second ship called. Is that the Stargazer?
It was the Stargazer, is the other ship. Well, it was more than just giving him headaches, because I think they were implanting memories or messing with his memories, so that they actually sort of forced his memories to those old memories to the surface that they manufactured. It wasn't just a headache to the point of going crazy, but still, it was very dumb. And I really dislike having our characters incapacitated especially this early into the show, to have Picard be not Picard, and he's delusional, and he's having visions of his past, and blah blah blah.
With doing the Naked Now episode, the second episode of the series.
Yeah, same basic principles. We don't know these characters well enough yet to regularly incapacitate them.
Yeah, so it's very weird that we keep putting Picard in a position of not being in power, and I'm like, and as we've said before, who's really the captain in the situation? Because every episode, it's not. I mean, obviously, it's not every episode, but most episodes, it's Picard can't handle his shit. Picard is being manipulated. So, who's to say what Picard really is, and how good of a captain is he when Riker's cleaning up his mess every time?
Yeah, this was another episode of Riker needing to take control of the ship. Riker, at one point, Dr. Crusher, and Counselor Troy all basically go behind the captain's back because they know that he's not himself, basically. Picard is under the influence of Ferengi orbs, for lack of a better term.
How do you think Riker feels? Because Riker and Picard meet in the first episode. It's the first time they meet, correct?
Yes.
So the entire time Riker has been on this ship, he knows Jean-Luc Picard just as well as we do. So he's probably just like, who let this guy have a ship? If you can't even handle your crap, you're going to different planets and you're getting like all incapacitated, he probably feels like he needs to get a raise at the end of this. Because he is pretty much acting like the captain the entire time he's been there.
I'll agree with that. We've still seen lots of instances of Picard, of Riker basically being the de facto captain, making the bigger decisions. Last episode, he was the hype man for Picard when they had to give that speech about justice on that planet. But other than that, Riker really has been calling a lot of the shots, which is an interesting trend to see for me, because I am so in love with seasons 3 through 7 that I almost forgot. I mean, I did forget just how prominent Riker was in the decision making in this early season.
It's like if I was doing my boss's job, I'd be pretty pissed off.
Exactly. So, moving on to just the general structure of this episode. I watched it, as I usually do with this podcast. I watched it about 2 hours ago, right before I recorded. And I was borderline bored because this episode really, really, really wastes time.
How do you think I feel? I wrote
That's
notes
true.
for this, and I watched it a month ago. I can't even use any of my jokes anymore because I don't know what they mean.
Yeah, we'll go over the notes, and I can try to refresh your memory, and if it doesn't work, I'll just cut them out of the episode.
They've implemented some of them into the conversation. You answered them already, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but so basically, in the first couple minutes, we're flying. We're with the Ferengi. Picard has his little headache, and we get the Stargazer back. That's first 10 minutes of the episode, and that's fine. Last 5 to 10 minutes of the episode is Picard under mind control on the Stargazer, and they try to solve the problem of getting Picard sort of in his right state of mind. We'll get to how they figure that out in a sec, but basically that leaves us the middle 20 to 25 minutes of the episode of just the number of times we cut to the Ferengi captain, Damon Bach, just sitting there wiggling around this orb going, I'm gonna mind control you, Picard. And then he twists it, and it cuts to a shot of Picard holding his head, and he's going, oh my god, my head hurts. And then Beverly Crusher going, oh no, we need to fit. Like, it's clear they didn't have enough material for a real episode.
Can we talk about the incident of which the Ferengi are upset about?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so Stargazer destroys Ferengi ship that was unidentified.
Back in the day.
And they're all pissed off about it. Why don't you just identify your ship? Stop being such weirdos with your weird ears and crap and start acting like adults here in the space universe. You can't have an unidentified ship anywhere. It sounds like their fault, and Picard just acted how he had to act.
And that's exactly right. That's exactly what happened.
Another question is, LaForge seems to be up on things. He seems to have been there for a while.
Yes.
So, the Stargazer incident happened 9 years before this episode airs.
Okay.
So how long has LaForge really been there? And he's a lieutenant, mind you, that he learned about this 9-year-old battle in the academy. Because I feel like the first 2 years after it happened, they wouldn't have talked about the Picard maneuver. That would be like, they had to write the textbook, and then he had to go through the academy, which means that LaForge is a lieutenant of only really serving, possibly 4 years on the Enterprise.
A small detail, but I'll accept it. Yeah,
These are the things I notice.
Yeah, that would make sense, that he discovers this sort of warp into two places, which, by the way, it doesn't make any fucking sense to me. Like, they clearly brush over those details immediately, where they're just like, I arc this and then I go to maximum warp and I'm in two places at once. I don't know about that. I mean, obviously it's fictional technology.
Well, they clearly needed to fill in a void for the fact that they didn't have an episode to write.
Yeah.
They completely phoned in everything. What was the point of the episode? There really wasn't.
Yeah, because I wouldn't say any character really grows in any way. No one changes. No one learns anything. They just sort of... let's talk about, because I mentioned it briefly, the problem gets solved in this episode. How does the problem get solved in this episode? Well, they figure out that there's a source on the Ferengi ship that's beaming some sort of low frequency wave or whatever over to the Enterprise, and it matches Picard's brainwaves. Guess who figures that fucking thing out? Fucking Wesley Crusher! Wesley shows up, unannounced, unprovoked, uninvited. There's no setup to him being in the episode. It's not like he's saying, well, I'm going to go study brainwaves and blah, blah, blah. Wesley just shows up. Oh, by the way, I glanced at your brain scan. I happened to memorize the entire pattern. That way, later in this episode, I'm able to identify it and recognize it somewhere else. Really, Wesley? You glanced at a brain pattern and memorized the entire wave frequency? Go fuck yourself.
He is a fucking Mary Sue.
Yeah.
Didn't that term get invented from Star Trek fan fiction?
That did. Gene Roddenberry is basically writing fan fiction for himself here.
Which is embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wouldn't deal with his bullshit on Kirk's ship.
Nope. Kirk could kick him out the airlock. Not really. But yeah, no, that's we get another Wesley ex machina coming in, saving the day without unannounced, uninvited. No one likes him. He just comes in, just figures out the problem.
Just because Picard wants to bang his mom.
That's right.
Still convinced that he's Picard's son.
Even though we know it's not.
Why else does he have a soft spot for that kid? And why is he just memorizing his brainwaves? I wouldn't memorize anyone's brainwaves except for my parents if I was ever going to do it. I wouldn't even do that. He's being a little stalker, weirdo, and I'm not having it.
Yeah, well, it all comes back to the idea that Gene Roddenberry wrote Wesley Crusher as himself. I mean, Gene Roddenberry's middle name is Wesley. This is all just wish fulfillment for Gene Roddenberry. And that's why the writer's room for the first season was a revolving door of writers, because they were coming in, wrote an episode. Gene Roddenberry's like, make sure I solve the problem. They're like, fuck this, and then they left.
That's really what happened.
They had really high turnover in their writers, and part of it is because of Gene Roddenberry's rules of no interpersonal conflict among the primary crew of the Enterprise. So obviously, Troy couldn't disagree with I almost said LeVar, LaForge.
Well, I have all the notes written as LeVar Burton and not LaForge. I finally memorized his name. It took me a month.
That's fair. And then I just want to... It was really jarring, this episode. I just want to say it, but my God, I know Worf doesn't have a lot to do with this episode, but his makeup is so bad in this first season. His head just looks less... Right now he looks like Toad from Mario. He's just got this big bulbous light bulb shaped head. And eventually they sort of settle that down a little bit. He still does have the ridges, obviously, but he gets a haircut that looks a little more sense, and I think they scale back the size of the Klingon ridges.
Yeah, and something I cannot comment on this time.
You will. You will. So, any other final points you want to make for this episode?
They called. All I know is I have this note on my phone, and I'm sure you can explain it to me because again, I have no idea what it's referring to. It says silver sphere is orange.
Oh, that's right. I noticed that too, actually. When Picard is on a Stargazer, and Riker is trying to get Picard to sort of come to his senses and relearn his surroundings, he says, "Use your phaser. There's be a silver orb. You must destroy it. Destroy the silver orb." But the top half of the orb is not silver. It's orange. It's glowing orange. The bottom half is part silver and part orange because it's got little like computery places on it. But like, it's not a silver orb. It's a silver and orange glowing orb.
I would have called it orange, just straight up.
I would have just said, is there a glowing orb over there that's not normally on a fucking starship? Because even the Ferengi guys like, oh, that's illegal. No one's allowed to have that. So, yeah.
So yeah, I'm just looking through these notes and I'm reading that one. I was like, what the hell does that even mean?
Yep.
But now I remember. No, I believe those are all the points I want to cover. Hopefully it doesn't take this much of a lag time between our next episodes for our time in the world, as it only takes 1 week for you lovely folks.
That's true. Next week, we will be recording and you will be hearing our discussion on Hide and Q.
Oh, no.
Guess who comes back, Nick?
Well, I would assume Q.
Yeah, Q comes back. And he does Q things.
Does he still question humanity?
I honestly don't remember. I'm going to watch it and see.
Well, we'll find out.
We will indeed. But that concludes our discussion for The Battle. We're plowing through Season 1 here. I can't wait for us to get to next season. I honestly can't. For your sake and mine.
Well, again, it just feels like homework right now, but hopefully it's going to be like, we record these like one at a time or like right after each other so I can like...
Yeah, you're going to get real impatient, especially once we hit Season 3.
Okay.
Once we hit Season 3. I mean, Season 2 has some stinkers, but it has some great episodes too. But Season 2 is a little inconsistent. But man, Season 3 is home run after home run, and it stays on a high note till Season 7.
Hey, we're in this for the long haul, so.
And Season 7 only really dips for one episode.
All right. Until next time.
Until next time. Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, like, comment, subscribe, rate, do whatever sort of feedback thing you have on your platform that you are listening to this on, and we will see you next week. Our Favorite Frontier is hosted by Alex Russo and Nick Caladona, edited by Alex Russo, and produced by Nerdy Inc. Be sure to follow us on YouTube to catch all of our videos, as well as like us on Facebook, Twitter, and whatever other social media we have.